people who are still out there come in. Whoop. Excellent. That's lovely. Thank you very much indeed. I'm delighted we're speaking about leadership in education. Are we walking the talk? That can be interpreted in many different ways, and it's going to be interpreted now in 3 different ways at least. I'm delighted to welcome Neera Jain, Managing Director of Scholastic, Dr. Rina Valecha, who's a Principal Ergonomic Consultant, which is I'm looking forward to learning more, and also Ms. Sushma Sharma, who's, sorry, have I got that right? Sushma, yes. Sushma Sharma, who's the global leader of Launch My Career. And I'm looking forward to start first with Neeraj. Would you like to give us your 5 minutes of presentation?
Okay. So, good morning, everybody. I think when we talk about leadership, and as the topic says, are we walking the talk? I always believe that, there's always a scope for improvement. But if I look at it in today's environment, I sometimes feel that, walking the talk becomes very difficult as leaders unless and until we understand that leadership is not what we were taught in books. Leadership is not about one size fits all. Because a lot of time the question, I face it from various quarters, is that, what is the style of leadership which will work? And my view on that has always been that there is no one style of leadership that works. What works in leadership is adaptability and flexibility. At times you have to act like a general and order your troops to move ahead. And at times you have to take a back seat as a leader and let your team come up with solution. And more often than not, the biggest role that you have to play as a leader is to identify and work with the team on the problem or the right diagnosis rather than working with them on the solution, because mostly the solution is there with the team. What you need to put them on a path is how to correctly diagnose and start working on a problem. And once you've done that, I think your job as a leader is also to make an environment where you learn from the people on the ground practicing it. And I like to put the point across with an example. So if I put a point across as an example from my own organization, if we have to re-energize our team in terms of executing the exhibitions on the ground, it's very difficult for me or my senior management team to identify what are the changes that are required on the ground. But if I am as a leader and if my senior team as a leadership team is willing to listen to the people on the ground who are executing that, we can make many changes and we can achieve our purpose. One of the famous story that comes to my mind always is, there was a company that used to manufacture soap, and they used to sell it in the soap put into the soap dish. They started getting a lot of complaints that the soap dishes were coming in empty and there were no soaps inside. They went into the top consulting firm, asked them what can be done, and they came up with a solution which was a multi-million-dollar solution. CEO like me felt that, it's a duty to do a town hall and tell the team that we are working so hard to eradicate the problem, and they shared the solution and everything. So the person who used to work on the conveyor belt didn't seem amused, and the CEO asked the person, do you think that this is not going to work? So he told him that, I am not knowledgeable enough to say that this will not work, but what I don't understand is, if this can be solved so easily, why are we spending so much of time and effort? And they asked him, how? He says, put 2 industrial fans on the side of the conveyor belt, and the soap dishes that don't have soap would get blown away. So the point that I'm trying to make here is, it's the team that's working that can tell you the best solution. How often as leaders are we willing to listen to them? It's the teachers who know the reality of the classroom, and how often do we listen to them while figuring out the right things for the classroom, or does it eventually get down to a top-down approach? We feel this is going to work in the classroom. Why don't you go and try? That would be my first comment.
Excellent. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you for your brevity, and thank you for that wonderful example too. Second, we have Dr. Rina Valecha, who's the Valecha, is that right? Thank you, Jess. Who's Principal Ergonomic Consultant at Godrej.
Thank you, Kevin. Hi, good morning, everyone. I am Dr. Rina Valecha. By profession, I am an occupational therapist. I am, and my practice is mostly in orthopedics and ergonomics domain. So I'm completely, from a different background here, but I am very keen to share certain insights in terms of, what exactly is happening in this scenario in education segment. Because every occupation, whatever we do, has certain associated occupational injuries towards it. So be it teaching, has its own associated thing. Learning, students face, has its own challenge. As a provider, education provider, or as an institute, the spaces, you being able to take care of your people in terms of the safety of the teachers, the well-being overall is equally important. So according to me, what I feel is post-pandemic, mostly post-pandemic in the last 2-3 years, the importance on health and wellness has increased. And it is no more individual, that the person has become no more conscious towards health and well-being. But more than that, it has now become an organizational's responsibility equally to take care of their people, because it is connected. The more your employees are happy, the more, the positive results, that positive outlook towards entire thing is there. There we are able also to understand, where exactly we can contribute to the overall wellness. So my job or my, process as a, as an ergonomist in this segment is to help leaders to take care of their employees, their students, their teachers, in maintaining their overall wellness at work, so that their productivity is being taken care and equally the wellness quotient increases of the space. There we have a human-centric approach. In human-centric approach, it is very, very important to understand, okay, where the challenge is. Today we get to know, okay, teachers know the real-time challenges in the classroom because they are the front-facing, they are teaching, they are educating the things. But are we really sure what exactly is the concern? That is where we as an expert come into play, that, okay, we try and understand what exactly are the challenges everywhere. One is from the space per se. From an ergonomics, is the teacher comfortable while teaching? What are the challenges from a user point of view? Is the concern, because also, if we understand pre-pandemic or maybe 10 years before, the education, it was more of chalk or chalk and duster, or more of, using blackboards, but now it is moving more towards digitization. So more the digitization, the way teachers are interacting, the way students are interacting, there are a lot of ergonomic problems which they are facing in terms of neck, back, and joint-related problem. So this is where the concern of human-centric approach, understand, assess where the problems are in terms of space, in terms of user behavior, in terms of workspace interaction, workspace elements. Correct. After assessment, when we know where the challenges are, it becomes very easy to take certain correctives on it. So be it in the form of creating certain policies, or highlighting or making certain norms, or training your employees in terms of right ergonomic behaviors, or implementing right infrastructure. And the third approach is prevention. In prevention, it's very important to reinforce the behavior of wellness so that it can be sustained throughout. That is why a human-centric approach, which is at the moment, which is missing in this element, I urge institutes to implement this approach in their existing setup and be more proactive in terms of overall health and wellness of the entire education ecosystem. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It makes me think, and thinking about the importance of confidence. Confidence as a learner, confidence as a teacher, or in any role. And would you agree there's a kind of strong link to that? By the way, that makes me think of sport, and I imagine cricket might be of some interest to some people. But when you see a confident team, the way they play is completely different from a non-confident team. And isn't that the same in school? Is it? Would you agree?
Again, it depends. It's different. I personally feel that the more they are connected, the confidence level, if I'm not wrong, it is more about the confidence you're talking.
Yeah, I'm just saying the connection between well-being and confidence.
Yes. Connection between well-being and confidence is, I am saying, it's directly related. Because morning, like for example, when you start your day, and if you didn't have a good sleep, and you just start because of long tech hours or the kind of routine we have been following, automatically what happens is, because of headache, the lack of concentration, you become a lot of irritable, we are not able to focus at our work. So what happens is all these things, and if you have to stand for long hours, work for long hours, it results into pain, discomfort. Yeah. So what happens is automatically your confidence level goes down and that discomfort begins in. So it's very, very important that today if we spend maximum time at work, it's our job to ensure that how that wellness component we as a provider can take care of our employees.
Thank you. That's brilliant. And our third speaker is Sushma. I beg your pardon. Sushma, over to you.
Subhodaya, Bangalore. I am Sushma. And I'm so glad to be speaking to you all about today's topic, that is education, leadership, and are we walking the talk? So before we delve deep into today's topic, allow me to revisit what leadership in education means. To me, it's the ability, or it combines the courage of facing conflicting challenges with the ability or the practicality of getting things done. Actually turning it upside down and shaking it a bit, because the present demands it and the future demands it. Now coming to the second element, because we are saying, are we walking the talk in the field of education? So how do we really identify ourselves as we in the context of education? We are a diverse nation. So India has the largest K-12 education system in the world. We have about 1.46 million schools with over 250 million students enrolled across the curriculum, with further over 42,000 colleges, with 30 million students. So we're not only sitting on a great opportunity, we also have a greater responsibility towards harnessing the young and diverse potential of our nation. Now circling back to the question, are we walking the talk? My stance or my observation is that we have taken baby steps, but we have a long way to go. Despite best of our efforts, our educational development is still very low. Now look at it in the context. How do we come to this conclusion that we have a long way to cover? If we look at some of the reports published by credible organizations such as World Economic Forum. Look at our global competitiveness report. We are sitting at a rank of 33. We have made progress, but we cannot be satisfied with this. We have a long way to go ahead. When we look at the happiness index, out of 146 countries which were evaluated, we are sitting at a rank of 136. My idea is not to criticize the efforts that we are making in the field of education. The idea is to get awakened and be hungry for doing the best that we can, because we are in the best time. We can do a lot at this point in time because there are no boundaries now. We are interconnected globally. So we are sitting at a rank of 136 when it comes to happiness index. The third thing, when we talk about our rank in terms of providing the quality of education and providing the right kind of opportunities to our youth, we are sitting at a rank of 33 again. So some of the nations, be it Finland, Denmark, New Zealand, UK, USA, Australia, some of the countries which make it to the top 10, we are not saying that let's run it like a competition, but There are credible organizations, which are carrying extensive educational researches and coming out with this data. So they're clearly reflecting that we have a lot more to do. We have a lot more to contribute. We just cannot stop where we are. So, I was not surprised when I correlated with this that, Finland has like the best education system and is also making to the top as far as the happiness index is concerned. So we can directly correlate that how a nation's well-being depends on its quality of education, how it is directly correlated. Now, what do we need to do? I am saying that we have taken baby steps and we have a lot to do, but why it is happening? Because there is low budget, we have low investment from the private and government sector, though we have increased our budget from compared to previous years, but unless we at least take it up to more than 6%, it'll take us a really long time to reach where we want to reach. Now, comparing the best education systems, our higher education is really expensive. We are yet to do away with some of the jaded hierarchical models in the education. We're still not transferring the leadership to the learner in the classroom. We're still not empowering the teacher community as much as we should do. We are not pessimistic about some of the great initiatives which have happened, be it rolling out new education policy, be it Samagro Shiksha Abhiyan. The government is making its own efforts. Some of the private players like us, Launch My Career, we're also trying to help learners apply scientific methods of choosing appropriate careers so that they can become contributing citizens. Our talent, our youth is getting wasted because they're getting enrolled into the programs. Their body, mind, and soul is not aligned. More than 80% of our youth is choosing wrong careers, and choosing a wrong career can make you seriously ill. So not only the education needs to be transformed at the school level, our higher education models have to transform. Just compare this. We have to compare ourselves with best if we want to truly transform our nation. The Harvard's education pattern has moved to case study. 80% is case study, 10% is project-based, and rest of it is for learning, self-learning, or lecture method. Whereas we're still sticking to those conventional models where our professor and teachers are standing in a classroom and relentlessly speaking to teachers. It's not that every school is doing that or every college is doing that. There are best education institutes, but we have to look at a larger scale. We have to see ourselves, how are we doing as a nation, from the point of view of how are we doing in the field of education, what is its impact on our nation's well-being. So we are not quite yet there. We should be more hungry, and we should be doing everything that we can do to transform our systems and be where we want to be in future. So that's my stance on this.
Thank you, Sushma. Excellent. Thank you. Show your appreciation for the presentations. I've got three little comments, which I hope in a small way. My example wasn't soap dishes. And the reason I think of this example, but getting information from people on the ground, the reason I like this example is because it talks about social fabric. It was a company, it was an organization, maybe think of a hotel somewhere in Bangalore. They're tall, and they have lifts, and people spend a lot of time waiting for lifts. And so there was this hotel wasn't in Bangalore, but they had real problems because people were waiting for the lifts, and they designed a new lift to go in place, and it cost millions. But then they fixed it. And do you know what they did? They put a mirror at each floor. So when people were waiting for the lifts, I haven't got very much here to check with, but people would just do that. So it's about understanding people. I think a lot of these things and solutions, and that understanding of people is a critical thing. That links to my next thing, which is about people. How much of our teacher training actually uses the methodologies we talk about, like project-based learning, if that's what we're trying to do, to help the teachers learn. And an awful lot of it, I suspect, doesn't. That's what happens. So I think thinking through how we can get that. And another little thing, just as a model for you to think about. If you think about the teachers, you know, and you think about, we tend to think about them in a kind of all-together way. Whereas we, as you have said, we need to be teaching them, we need to be working with them individually if we're going to lead them. And so one simple methodology which was called, it doesn't matter what it was called, but it was to split what teachers know. So you could take their knowledge of subject and you could take their soft skills and you can plot roughly where they sit. So what they need for their development, it might be they know their subject completely and they need a lot of help with soft skills, or it might be they've got great soft skills but they really need to improve their subject knowledge. So think about those things carefully. Don't just think about everybody the same. Just do a very simple piece of analysis and you can get very quickly. I'm sorry, I'm speaking too much perhaps, but my last, and it's linking to what you said, the last thing that occurred to me from the great thing about the countries that you talked about that have high levels of happiness index, and I think then of a number of the Scandinavian countries have done that. Key thing to look at is the level of trust, because social fabric comes from trust. The level of trust between all the different parts of society is high. And I think it's not a magic thing, but those are the things to perhaps put in mind as we do that. So forgive me for just observations and appreciation of what you said, but those are the thoughts that are stimulated for me. But with that, I should turn to the audience. We've time for questions, I'm pleased to say.